Hi friends, Mindy here. I have a quick process video for you today. I'm going to be working with this DIY kit from Bythewell4God. This was the Traveler's Notebook cover or Midori cover kit that they came out with this month, and I am going to change mine just a little bit. I want to distress the background. As you can see, it comes in this beautiful white, which is beautiful, but I know can be dangerous on my desk. So I'm going to preemptively distress this just a little bit. So I always keep a little bottle, a spray bottle filled with coffee on my desk. This is a way that I can just quickly coffee dye things if I want to add some age to something or whatever. And so I just always have this on hand. And I thought I would go ahead and just use this. So I am spraying the cover here. I'm keeping most of the coffee to the outer edges of this, not directly onto the image, although I did not have any trouble with the ink fading out or anything like that, but I just wanted to be a little bit careful. I do spray some of it directly onto the image. I'm just knocking back all of that white, but you can see I'm kind of going through here with a paper towel after I've done that and just soaking up some of the extra coffee, but I'm letting it sit in puddles around the outside. I want it to really soak into the fibers of this kind of fabric paper. And I'm going to do these little extra pieces that I have too that I'm going to do for the pockets. So I am just letting some of this coffee kind of drip down on my little nonstick mat here. And then as I'm working with this, I decide to hit this with my heat tool just a little bit. You can kind of see it's not 100% dry. And then I went ahead and went back in and added some more spray, and I'm just really letting it kind of soak into all those crevices. I want it to pool and just create some dimension by doing it that way. And so what I end up doing is I'll dry like the front a little bit, and I'll let the backside kind of sit in those puddles of coffee, and then I'll flip it over and do the same thing. And you can kind of see it ends up giving just some interesting dimension and texture by doing it that way. So you get like the darker parts and everything. And then when I got it kind of the way I wanted it, I just let it sit and air dry. And I did that for all of the pieces. And I did the cord as well because I didn't want to have the bright white cord on there. So that's the elastic that's going to hold in the traveler's notebooks. So I did want to add just a little bit of depth around the edges. So I'm taking archival ink and ground espresso and just going with my tool just right over just barely the edges, just to give it a little bit more dimension. I did not do that on the inside, but I just did that on the outside. So I want to create the pocket. So I'm pulling out my other traveler's notebook that I have just to kind of see how I might want my pockets configured on here. So I have this big piece, and I thought I was kind of eyeballing where I might want this to be for my inside pocket. So I'm going to create one long vertical pocket on the front side, and then I thought I was going to do that on the back side as well, but then I thought maybe I would want a double pocket on the front. And so I'm just kind of going through this decision-making process here, really trying to figure out how I want to do this. This product works really well. You can cut it easily. You can see I'm using my trimmer here. This first pocket that I cut it at 3 inches, and I thought that would be a good size, and you'll see me redo this in a minute, but just using my trimmer here, and it cut just perfectly. You could certainly use a rotary tool or an X-Acto knife, even with a ruler, if you wanted to cut it that way, but it's very, very easy to cut. So I thought I was going to do this vertical pocket, this 3-inch pocket, and then I'm going to add some little kind of skinnier pockets running horizontally up the side of that. And so as I'm starting marking everything off, I realized that by the time I get everything glued down, I really am not going to have a whole lot of space inside that pocket. So I'm kind of marking this here, and I'm going to trim a little piece before I realize that this is really not where I want this pocket to be. And I am not going to sew this pocket in. You could certainly do that if you have a good sewing machine. You can sew your pocket in. If you've watched any of my videos before, you know that I don't know how to sew. I have a little like tabletop sewing machine, but it's really hard sometimes to get really good straight lines. It kind of does what it wants to a little bit, which is fine when I'm making a junk journal, but it's not what I wanted for my cover here. So I am going to go ahead and just glue all of these down. But again, because of the way this product works, it's going to glue just fine and work perfectly. So in the end, I decided that I wanted that pocket to be just a little bit bigger, because what I had picked out for the little 3-inch, it was just not going to be wide enough. So I went back with this other piece and created a 3.5-inch pocket, which I liked this one much more. I am a little upset that I'm covering up some of the coffee dyeing because I liked how some of that turned out on the inside especially, but it's okay. So I'm just going to create this vertical pocket, again, that's 3.5 inches, and then I'm just going to create a little pocket down here at the bottom. And then what I'm going to do is I'm only going to round the one corner that's kind of the inside corner. And I'm using an old corner puncher that I have. You could use whatever punch that you have. You could even use scissors to round that if you wanted to. You don't have to even round it if you don't want to. I just decided to do that so I can easily slide things in and out of there. And then I created a pocket for the back cover as well that's going to run horizontally also. And then I'm just going to use some glue, like I said, to adhere this down. I'm using Helmar 450 Quick Dry. You could certainly use Fabri-Tac or any other kind of glue like that. I'm just using this because I know it's going to stick down really well. So I glued the vertical pocket, and then on this little smaller kind of horizontal pocket, I glued just the left side and the bottom and left it really kind of more open as a tuck spot, just to make it a little bit easier to kind of slide things in and out, especially once I have all of my traveler's notebooks in there. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this back pocket, just adhering the two sides. So the one side that's opposite to that rounded corner, I rounded that one corner as well. Like I said, it just makes things easier to go in and out, and I feel like it just kind of makes it have a nice finished look to it. And then just to reinforce the cover just a little bit more, I'm going to add some of these Tim Holtz corners, these book corners. I add a little bit of glue when I do this, but you certainly don't need to. It just gives me a little more security. So it's just going to hold it in place while I'm getting this done. So you can kind of fold them with your fingers a little bit and kind of mash them down, but I always come back in with some pliers just to make sure everything is stuck down really good. And then I will do that for all 4 of the corners, and this doesn't affect the pockets at all. This they still work just as fine. You can still slide things in and out just as easily. So it just reinforced the edges just a little bit more for me there. And then I need to string my elastic through to hold my traveler's notebook. So I did dye this. I just kind of set it in a puddle of coffee. And what I'm going to do, there's a lot of different ways you can do this, but what I'm going to do is I want to be able to put 4 traveler's notebooks in here. So I'm starting from the bottom right hole and leaving a little bit of a tail on the inside, and then I'm going basically from the right hole over to the left hole, and then going as you can see, I went up to the top and then I went to the outside, came back in the inside at the top, and then back down to the bottom, and then just kind of doubled my way around. So doing it this way will allow you to have basically 2 strings in each one of the holes so that you can add 2 traveler's notebooks on each one of these holes. So you can get 4, you can see here, you'll have 4 traveler's notebooks in here. I hope that, and I realized I was a little off camera, so it's probably maybe a little bit hard to see, but there's lots of tutorials for kind of making your own ones of these. So, and there's lots of different ways even that you can string them. This is just the way that I wanted to do it so that I could get 4 traveler's notebooks in there. But I'm kind of messing with the tension here just a little bit, because this is one of those aspects where you don't want it too tight because it will cause your cover to curl, but you want it tight enough that it's going to hold your traveler's notebook in there. So I get mine to about where I feel like it's going to be good. You can kind of see here is too much because it started to curl too much. So what I decided to do is I'm just going to pull in my traveler's notebooks just to get a good idea. So I'm putting 2 in that first one, and you just kind of open the traveler's notebook to the middle section and slide it right through there. Now, if you're using this to do a journal, you could even create a junk journal in this same way, where you just slide the signature in. But on this last one, this is where I'm going to be tying those 2 ends together. So I'm just making sure everything is in there nice and tight, and everything's going to be secure, but it's not going to curl my cover. And then I'm just going to tie this in a knot right here. And then before I trim off the edges, I'm just going to make sure everything is still really nice and secure and how I want it. So I'm just trying a square knot there. Everything is good. I feel like they're not going to fall out or anything like that. And then I will come back through here now and trim off. I'm going to tighten that knot, just give it a couple little tugs, and then I'm going to trim off the excess and then put a little bit of glue, just a little drop on there. That just kind of secures it and make sure that it doesn't come out. And then off camera, I forgot to film this part. I did add my little wood veneer piece just to the little elastic there that you can see that's visible up at the top. And I will probably come back and add some fiber. I really feel like I want to add some fabric, like floofy kind of things on here. But I'm going to wait to do that until probably the end of when I'm done with my kit. And then the kit also came with this leather that you could certainly use as a closure. But I really love this image so much that I don't want to cover it up. So I thought about a few different ways to add some closures, and in the end I decided not to even do that. I have this post hinge that I thought I would do, and in the end I really just decided, for now at least, I'm going to just leave it. I don't need to add a closure, but this is kind of what it looks like with all of the pockets. And like I said, I did mine so that it will hold all 4 of my traveler's notebooks, and then I have a pocket here in the back as well. So that is pretty much it for me. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below. If you like this video, I would appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And until next time, bye.